Afternoon all, and welcome to this Environmental Services meeting. Welcome to the Mayor, Councillors, staff, Andrew Coleman from Heritage New Zealand, he's Chief Executive there, press and public. So I now call for any extraordinary business. Oh, dear. Any apologies? I think a full house today. Conflicts of interest? Good run so far. So now I'll call to the up to the table Andrew Coleman to say a few words on behalf of Heritage New Zealand.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk to Council. And in doing so, I want to offer you first congratulations. I was here a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and I've got to say that having come back to Ashburton today, people have asked me if I enjoyed it so much that am I going to keep coming back? Well, I've got to say, with the experience that we all had out at the Inking Chinese settlement, market garden display. That event was fantastic, and the first congratulations that I wanted to offer to you, the Ashburton District Council, for what you've done there. The telling thing was, us as Heritage New Zealand, Pouhere Taonga, you as the Ashburton District Council, and the Inking family themselves, and the broader community of Ashburton, celebrating what was the 7th archaeological declaration of any site in New Zealand. So a very, very prominent site. And what's interesting about that in heritage terms is that if you drive up Allens Road, as we've all done, you see some sheds, and many people offer a view about those sheds. They might call them old, they might call them derelict, they might call them, falling down. But what's interesting about the archaeological declaration, it's more to do with what's under the ground. Someone once said to me, why is archaeology important to New Zealand? And I said, it's actually because New Zealand's history is largely under the ground. Māori history is under the ground, and that's why the declaration of that site was so important. What was interesting on that day is it gave me an opportunity as the Chief Executive of Heritage New Zealand, Pouhere Taonga, to have a look around your district, and I did take that opportunity. I've been to the Pioneer Hall. I've seen the other areas of the Blue Plaque, and I'll be really pleased this afternoon when we unveil the Heritage Plaque, the Blue Plaque, on the Courthouse building. You've got, and I just want to implore you to know this, you've got a fantastic portfolio of heritage. You've got an alarming story, as everywhere in New Zealand has, around what we call lost heritage. But I think when I go around the country and talk to councillors, I talk to regional councils, I talk to many, many groups, and I say, look, please understand the heritage value that you have in your community. But what do you do with it is the question. And I think that you've got a great opportunity here in Ashburton and in your broad region to actually make the most of the heritage that you've got, connecting them by way of stories. And I do want to take the opportunity to applaud the Mid-Canterbury Historic Places. So they were the recipient at the Canterbury Heritage Awards last year of the award that we actually as an organisation sponsored. And the reason that we sponsored this community award, it was who actually engages best with their community and heritage. And across the whole Canterbury region, Mid-Canterbury Historic Places, they won the award, and I was really proud to be able to offer them the trophy and the acknowledgement of the best community connection, and it was around blue plaques. It was around that storytelling of history and its connection to heritage. So you've got a great portfolio. I just want you to understand that. And I know that I'm going to always talk positively about heritage, and I'm happy to be questioned about it, but most questions I'll turn into a positive answer because I, like you, and you've shown with your willingness to invest in heritage, around the Inking settlement, we as an organisation were so taken by that day that we went away, and as we sit here now, your staff are working with our staff about what can we do now immediately about that site by way of some added protection to it. we've said that we're prepared to invest. And I know that you've already invested. But we're saying, actually, it is so important, let's do something about it now. So when you talk about that positive view, I did a bit of I suppose it's a secret shopper trip today as I came down from Canterbury, from up north, and I drove into Ashburton and I turned right at the racecourse and I went out to Allens Road because I wanted to have another look at the King settlement, and I did that. I then came into town and I drove around the blue plaques, and I've got to say they are impressive, and Nigel and the team here at Historic Places Mid Canterbury are doing a great job with those. I hope like me, you're very proud of that. But what I then did is I then said, if I was just travelling here as a person either staying in or passing through Ashburton, what would entice me to stop? And I'm looking now for a really dedicated heritage trail. I got onto Google and I Googled where the information centre was. Now, I'm not too sure why, but it headed me to East Street. And I went to East Street to the closed information centre, and I thought, well, that's not obviously here. The sign on the door told me that it's now at the library. So I headed over to the library, and I'm looking for a heritage trail pamphlet. So what I found was all the really good things about Ashburton District. I found a fantastic walk and cycle trail, and a really good, and I tell you what, yes, I would stop for that. And I would do that. I found the Experience Mid-Canterbury brochure, and it's full of fantastic things. If you think about, as I read this, a lot of it was about outdoor events, walking, cycling, associated with Mount Hutt and the like, so a lot of outdoor activity. But I then questioned about the day that the mountain might be closed, weather might have closed the mountain. What is someone going to do? As I was going through all the brochures in the library, I didn't find one about heritage. But then I've been over and met in the Pioneer Hall just recently, and I found this one here, which is the Mid-Canterbury Heritage Trail. So I've said to Nigel and others, that might need to be in the library. Actually draw people to it is the key. When you've got such a good portfolio, I wonder about when you enter Ashburton or the broader Mid-Canterbury region, you might be so proud to say, actually, we need to tell people on their arrival on that road that this is a fantastic heritage trail place. You've got lots of good examples of heritage as you enter this place. Take time to stop and explore the heritage trails. Some entry to this place would be beneficial. Make these, I'd suggest, a lot more obvious. When I looked at all the brochures, and I didn't read them all, but there was probably in the vicinity of 100 brochures. A lot of them were social service-facing brochures in the information centre at the library. Be proud of your heritage. Put a banner on the top of it. Make this really prominent because you are not unique in New Zealand by way of the heritage that you have, but you're certainly much further ahead than many places that I go to. On a personal note, every year I drive from Wellington to Invercargill, where we spend Christmas because my in-laws live in Invercargill. We leave and we come across on the ferry. I always stay in Ashburton. It's the halfway stop for us. So we leave, we arrive here about 4 o'clock. If there was something that invited me to have a look at heritage as I came into town, and it was obvious where I could go and collect something that gave me a really simple trail to follow, and you've got the Blue Plaque Trail, you've got other heritage sites trails as well, I would have done that. But as a person who comes through your town every year, I didn't know about that. So I'm just imploring you to make the most of what you've got here. Be proud of what you've got, and I know you are proud of what you've got. Do everything we can to protect it and preserve it, because that's what we're looking to do. The reason that part's important is because protecting and preserving heritage is best done in partnership. And I think for us, and I'm thinking maybe for you, we all learned an awful lot about the Inking Chinese settlement gardens and working in partnership. I think we realised how easy it is perhaps to achieve, but it's fraught with many issues that challenge us early on. So we will encourage you to work with us, work with others, work with the local Mid-Canterbury Historic Places around heritage, because you've got a fantastic portfolio. I'll finish up by answering any questions that you may have. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Great, thank you, Andrew. So no doubt there'll be a few questions round. Yes, certainly outside eyes pick up things of what we haven't done well, and that's always much appreciated because anywhere I go, I'm quite critical of what things aren't right, and people will fix them because why didn't we think of that? Just one of those things. So somebody got a question? Yeah, Councillor Rollinson.
Thank you. My question perhaps is reflecting what Andrew said, but to Julie or Nigel, is the Heritage Trail booklet on the Experience Mid Canterbury's webpage?
No, Jane, we did it prior to the Earthquakes. We were part of the branch of some historic places. The brochure was made up when we were a part or a branch of New Zealand Historic Places Trust, and it was prior to the earthquake. So we had 5,000 printed, and I think it was for a grant for a council, and obviously it changed a little bit with the earthquakes. We go out to Rakaia, out to Bar Hill, up to Methven. Hackatree wasn't complete at that stage, so it would be very timely to do an up-to-date one, and the basis is there, you know, and the basis is all there. I think it's probably still in my computer somewhere.
Well,
Yeah.
perhaps I could suggest they put in an application for a grant and we help them update that booklet.
Yeah, that would be a really good project for us to undertake. Yeah.
Yeah, Councillor Price.
Thank you, and thank you. Thank you to both of you. I've got a question. I'm not sure who's able to answer it. I've recently had an email from Dr. Anna Crichton, who, wearing her hat as the chair of the Christchurch Heritage Awards Charitable Trust. This follows up a personal conversation I had with her at the event at the Chinese settlement. She's suggesting that Ashburton District Council joins Selwyn District Council and Waimakariri District Councils in becoming a supporter of those heritage awards. Are either of you aware of them, and what would be the benefits to becoming a supporter of that to the council?
I certainly am aware of them. I was one of the judges of the last awards, and Anna won't mind me telling you that I've been asked to chair the judging for the next award. So what's the benefit? There were 80 applicants in the last Heritage Awards. From, you could just about name any perspective of heritage that you might like, and it was covered, and quite some quality. Every single one of those 80 nominations had a lot of thought done to it. I've already talked about one of the nominations and the award-winning Mid-Canterbury Historic Places for their community-facing one. So what does it mean? There is a fantastic function that I think is actually quite widely known. You know, you might say particularly in Christchurch, but it needs to be much broader. Those councils, your council and others perhaps joining up, I would like to see hundreds of applications, because I know even in Ashburton you've got many places that have had heritage efforts put into them that deserve recognition. Recognising heritage in that way is really quite poorly done in New Zealand. So for no other reason than it's an opportunity to acknowledge and congratulate and applaud heritage. That's a really good outcome. The reason that it might be even more important now is that I know that there are steps to make them a national award. So a full New Zealand award for heritage. Through the Canterbury Heritage Awards, which includes your area, you know, you are well ahead of every other part of the country. There's no other part of the country that has an award for heritage so long-standing. Yes, there are technical bodies, architects, property council that have their heritage aspect in their awards as well. But just take yourself forward and imagine the day when there's a New Zealand Heritage Award, and maybe the winner of that Heritage Awards nationally may well come from Ashburton, and that's something to aspire to.
Councillor Malcolm.
Yeah, thank you very much. We at Council have approved, we've had some government funding to build new toilets at Rakaia and revitalise the salmon site. I'm part of a committee at Lions Club and Rakaia, and we are going to put in some heritage information boards right there. My question is probably that we'd probably like a little bit of help from you guys. There will be a directory to heritage sites in the Rakaia area, but we would also like some help of how we set up that, okay? So that'll be much appreciated in the future.
Yeah, I have a whole organisation, and interpreting heritage sites is an aspect of our delivery. So we've got people who are technical specialists in communicating through boards information of heritage. So they're quite happy to give the advice around what looks good on a board, how might a board work in that particular area, what's the story you're looking to tell, and how might that be sort of added to. So we're more than happy to assist.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just wondering, are you aware that council actually has a dedicated heritage grant, which people can, it's the only one now left that people can apply for twice a year, and the next round is coming up before the end of the year, and to be fair, it's generally undersubscribed when we go out there, so that's why we've kept that one at twice a year. I mean, basically the only real criteria with it has to be a heritage listed building. But apart from that, we do have some money available for heritage listed buildings for people to apply to if they want to do some work on them.
Well, that's fantastic news, thank you, because like you, we have an incentive fund for heritage protection, and ours is all significantly always oversubscribed. So I now know where I'm going to head our local ones from here too, so thank you for letting me know.
Can I just add in there that I know several years ago that properties that would qualify for that used to receive a letter each year to say that those grants could be available. I don't think that it happens any longer, so could be something you could look at reintroducing as a wee prompt.
Thank you. I will check on that because you're right. I do remember that myself now, that all heritage listed buildings did used to get a letter. So.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. These guys got to sprint down the road soon, so
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for your kind words. It's wonderful to be reminded about how lucky we have, not only to have amazing heritage in our district, but also to have a wonderful organisation who are driving the Blue Plaque project. We're excited to be joining you at 2 o'clock, but my question perhaps for you, Julie, is are we going to run out of sites? And this is, I understand, the 7th site that we'll be putting a Blue Plaque on?
I don't believe so. I think you've got a lot of heritage. We've only really looked in, well, Hackettry obviously, but in the local area, you've got a lot of private ownership out there, and some very significant homes as well. So no, I don't think so. We need to start looking out in the towns a bit too. Yeah. So no, great.
I think when the plaques tell a story, and I know that the focus is around built heritage at the moment, but maybe we'll broaden in time through historic places to tell stories of heritage from those plaques. And the good thing for you is through Julie and Nigel, it started here. You're the first. We've been saying to historic places Aotearoa, cover the country, but we'll always acknowledge that it started here.
lovely. Thank you. So thanks very much, Andrew, Julie. So we'll just keep all in touch, and while things are going well, just keep them going well, isn't it? So thank you.
For your time.
Righto, we'll move on for confirmation of the minutes. Is there any changes that anyone has noticed? Page 1, page 2. Have we a mover? Councillor Malcolm.
Second that.
Could I just ask one question, Mr. Chairman? The Town Centre Subcommittee minutes are in committee. Is that normal?
It depends on what the subject matter is, but you did go into committee at that meeting. Well, I don't know if you were there, but yes.
Just reading the minutes, most of it doesn't need to be in committee. They must come out at some stage.
Most of it doesn't, and I've already had an inquiry about that. I didn't know the answer, but I checked with Philippa Clark, and it's only the Town Centre Working Group that can move them to come out. The reason they were in was because of the total price which we haven't yet gone out to tender for, but that's only a small part of the minutes.
Thank you.
I have a question too. Thank you. Just regarding the planning and the plan change too, perhaps Jane could enlighten us when we will hear the final decisions regarding the plan change 2 hearings.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. That's scheduled to come to the August 15th council meeting, and it will be, as is the usual practice, a recommendation from the Commissioner, and ultimately the recommendation will be that you adopt that.
Anything further? Matters for this committee to decision. So, Cam Ross, you have a recommendation there. Is there any questions you have before we go that far? Madam Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I note in the audience today we have the Chairman of the Methven Community Board, Mr. Dan McLaughlin, and it prompts me to ask, are the Methven Community Board consulted or asked for their opinion prior to naming of roads in Methven?
Can be, but this is a matter for planning, for the planning people, and no doubt the manager will say, but they go through a fair process, and I don't believe the community board would have the records required to actually do this job. So, Madam Manager.
No, we don't. There's a process that's adopted as part of the policy, but no, we don't. There's quite a rigorous checking procedure to meet the standards with LINZ to make sure that it doesn't sound like any other name in the district that could confuse emergency services and the like.
Thank you. Councillor Lovett.
Well, I was just going to ask a question. Looking at the subdivision, there's quite a lot of houses in here, and it just made me thinking, reading through this, for the future of the town wastewater system, you know, we're sort of approving all these roads and subdivisions. Is there capacity to allow all this? I know it's sort of round circles round this question, but it just concerns me that, you know, Methven's just growing and growing, and you know, where are we heading to?
Really, they'll have the answers.
Through the chair, thank you. Generally speaking, all subdivisions that we get are checked and signed off by our service delivery colleagues to make sure that there is actually servicing capacity there, and whether or not there's any specific infrastructure that needs to be introduced, and indeed whether or not there's capacity overall. This particular subdivision came through as a plan change in the last, I think even before the last district plan review, and in fact it was staged to allow for the infrastructure to go forward. So the first stage was allowed to be developed, and then the second stage had to wait for a certain level of development to occur before these ones were done. So short answer is yes. Yes, they do. Yeah.
Any further? Somebody like to move the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. I move that. So move the recommendation that the roads to be vested in council as part of subdivision SUB 18/7013 be named Memorial Crescent and Glenmethven Place.
Are you seconding Councillor Price?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Get to the right place. Bravo. Somebody might like to move or receive the activity reports.
I'm happy to move we accept the
Councillor
activity
Rollinson.
reports.
Councillor Urquhart. Thank you. Building Services. Michael's here to ask any question that was possibly come up. Anybody got anything there that, in your homework, that you've read and would like to ask? Councillor Brown.
I'm on page number 9, Mr Chairman, and it's under the end of year performance update. Just on builder consents, Michael, 17 of the 670 failed to meet the time frame. It's not a lot, but it is some, because your time frame is supposed to be 100%. What were the reasons for those 17 not making that, getting in time?
Through you, Mr Chair, unfortunately with the law it doesn't matter what type of consent it is, so it could be a $1,000 garden shed, it could be a $53 million admin building, we still get the same time frame. So those 17 are basically all large commercial jobs. That just unfortunate. 10 out of those 17 were only 21 days, so we only just missed the mark.
Good question, good answer. Enlightened most of us. Anything further there? Righto, the performance review, anybody pick anything up there? Jane's obviously got a pretty strong whip hand, there's never usually too many problems.
I'll see you after the meeting.
Planning. You'll see we just slowed down slightly. Any questions on that? End of year performance update. You've never before been perfect, have you? Have you, Ian? No answer's good. No answer's a good one. You switch across the limbs. Still clogging along quite big numbers there. Performance review, performance update. Don't know how you get much above 100. Councillor Rawlinson.
Thank you. I just have a question for Rick under the animal control. 454 complaints in that 6-month period, Rick. Is that about standard number or is that slightly higher than normal?
Sorry, through the chair. Thank you for the question. The number of complaints of late has increased in terms of wandering stock and rushings as well. So attacks has tracked average, but the wandering stock has been an issue.
Just through you, Mr Chair, at your next meeting, your last committee meeting, there will be the annual report that Rick has to compile every year on dog control, so you'll be able to see the whole year's figures.
Nothing further? Just Councillor Brown.
Just one on the dog control, registered dogs, and it's my annual question, I suppose. Have we made any further progress on getting the unregistered, unknown dogs out there registered? Have we been able to make any headway?
27 more.
I do believe there may be more out there than that.
Could well be, Councillor Brown.
But you're working on it, aren't you?
We are.
Thank you.
Nothing on alcohol, regulatory on alcohol. End of year performance update. All right, keep moving. Life's too short to sit. Right, the town centre. There's some two lots of minutes there.
Oh.
Nothing in the first lot of minutes.
Did you have a question?
I do, as well. Sorry.
That's what's not.
Thank you. Just a question on emergency management. So I see you've got the new response plan for Mount Somers in progress. Where were the next response plans?
I
scheduled a
think,
couple of times.
through you, Mr Chairman, and Rick will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think James Lamb is just working with the Rakaia that's close to being finalised. That was a review, and the next one he was going to start work on was Hines.
Right, that'll be the finish. Any further questions yet? Thank you, team. So that's the finish of the open meeting. So we will now move into public exclude. So thank you, team. We're back in 5 minutes. I don't know. Yep. Yep.
Okay, I'll move that we go into committee.
Okay, have we seconded it? Councillor Urquhart will do, yep. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We move into committee. All those opposed, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, carried. Also need to receive the minutes of the Town Centre Working Group. Is there any alterations or anything need to change there?
Oh.
Hang on.
What do I do?